Hello, everyone. This is Byron Lehman, and this is the Jittery Goat YouTube channel. Um, Also, I have a website. It's entitled Jittery Goat, and you'll find it at jitteryg.com. And that's where you'll find my short stories and vignettes, as well as links to my novels on Amazon. So I hope you go there and enjoy the stories, and also go there and buy a book and help a starving writer. Okay. Well, in this episode, I'm going to link in the description section. I'm going to link to a short story or a vignette that I wrote some years ago, and it's based upon the movie The Shawshank Redemption, which was based upon the book Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. It's something I think you'll like. I certainly enjoyed the movie, and like all things in life, if we really enjoy them, if we enjoy going someplace, we enjoy the ride there also. And that's the movie The Shawshank Redemption is. I know everything about it. I know how it's going to end, but I enjoy the ride there. I enjoy the characters, how they interact, and the things that happen. Even though I know it's going to happen, there's just something about the movie that I really like. And it probably says something about my personality too, so we won't delve deep into that. But anyway, it's a good movie. If you haven't watched it, it's a 30-year-old movie. Watch it. If you haven't read the book, get the book and read it. And it's a good book too. I think you'll enjoy it. It's written by Stephen King, the horror writer. It's the only Stephen King novel I've ever read. I don't like spooky and scary stuff. It's not that the spooky and scary stuff does anything to me. I think they're cheap. I just think spooky and scary are cheap things. I think it's like it's the easiest joke you can play on somebody. Jump out in front of somebody, say boo. That's I don't know. I don't think that takes art. Anyway, that's me. Other people may enjoy it, and Stephen King is a terrific writer, and nothing against him, but that's just me. So this vignette, I think you'll enjoy it. In fact, I know you'll enjoy it because I really enjoyed writing it. And you have to enjoy writing something before you take the time to do it. And so the process is kind of fun. And so it's a continuation, you might say, of the Shawshank Redemption. What happens after Redding in the Shawshank Redemption and Andy Defresne reunite in Zihuatanejo, Mexico? Well, they start a little enterprise there. But what else happens to their life? Everything else, every story, if it's carried out to its natural end, ends in death. Okay, and so they're not dead when they reunite. They're on the beach of Zihuatanejo. Something goes on. What happens? Well, we don't know. We can speculate. This brings me back to something that I discussed with a friend of mine decades ago. And he's a writer himself. Jim Boucher. He lives in Wapakoneta, Ohio, and a fascinating storyteller and writer. And I remember him saying once that everybody's a writer and they just don't know it. And of course, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. What did he mean by that? He said, well, when you go to a movie or you read a book and you didn't like the ending, you'd say, well, I'd end it this way, or I'd do it this way, or I'd go on and do this. He says, you're a writer. And of course, the writing process is a little bit harder than that. But we have to understand what he meant by that, as we all have this creative thing in us, that what we want to do is complete the story, make it come out the way we want to, and we can create that. And so that's what this vignette, this story is. It has to do with just going just a little bit further. What happens after that? Well, it's another story too, isn't it? Because nobody dies in my vignette either. So that's kind of what's behind this story. It's called Finding Andy Defresne. It's not very long. It could be longer, I guess, but I usually take just a couple hours. I have kind of an idea of something, and I spend a couple hours on it. And so that's what I did with this. Now, if you're a writer, um, writers are always looking for some sort of inspiration, something to write about, um, to keep themselves going. Writing is like a muscle; it has to be exercised, and so sometimes we have to look for a dumbbell or something to exercise or to get on the recumbent bike, just something to get us going again. And so we pick things, and that's the thing that we can pick. We can find a story that, in your opinion, is not complete, or that can go further. My goodness, Gone with the Wind. Everyone wanted a sequel to that. Finally, one was written. What happened after Scarlett said, "Well, there's always tomorrow," and Red said, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." There's always something beyond that, and so a sequel was written, like 40 years later to Gone with the Wind. My wife read the sequel. I had no interest in it. I could hardly get through Gone with the Wind myself, although a great book. It just took a long time to read. And so anyway, there's always something um, beyond the amen, beyond the last words of a story. Even if the person dies in death, there's people who live, and you can write a story. Well, how did their death affect them? How did their life affect them? So as a writer, there's all sorts of things that we could latch hold of and write. Now, sometimes you don't want to kidnap another person's story. So what you can do is, when you come to an end of a story or a movie or something like that, you want to write on, you can change it up a little bit, change the names of the characters and change the setting and so forth to make it your own. But it's a way of coming up with something so you can exercise your writing skills, because that's what you want to continue doing. And invariably, what happens sometimes when you exercise your writing skills, it's like the old saying, if you're trying to catch a butterfly, it's near impossible. But if you just sit still long enough, it'll come up and land on your shoulder. So that's what happens with writing. If you're trying too hard to find something, it'll be difficult to find. However, what you can do is just do your exercise, your writing exercise. Think of a little vignette or story you can write, and sure enough, you may have to do a dozen of them, and suddenly something will come to you. Maybe it will come to you out of what you've written, and you can write about it. So I hope that's helpful to writers. Now, I probably should have said something to the readers first of all, what this story means, or what I think it can mean to you, or what it's meant to me. In my mind, I've always wanted to return to some place where I've been before, and just take a look at it to see if certain feelings return to me, or I've always wanted to go someplace where my dad was, and where I was never there, and maybe he told me about, and I've always wanted to see it with my eyes and try to see what he saw. During World War II, my dad was in the Galapagos Islands. He was there for a short while until the war ended. He told me a little bit about it, but not a lot. It was a way that it was a place that was away from the war. Really, it must have been a terrible and boring existence, being on this lump of rock in the 500 miles off the coast of Ecuador on the equator. So I've always wanted to go there. And in fact, I'll probably link to it later on, a few months down the road. But I wrote a book. It was called, I think it was called The Galapagos Man, and kind of about my dad and me going back there, and to the Galapagos Islands to search for something that they lost. And I'll let it go at that. So at any rate, I think if that our mind is kind of like a book. It has chapters, and it's many books, and chapters are opened, and books are finished, but yet there's always just a little bit more. And I think sometimes when we explore that, when we go back maybe to a place that we knew as a youth, or go and see somebody we knew as youth to try to find them. I think in a way we're closing a chapter. And maybe it's just me. I kind of wonder about people that I knew for just a brief period of time, maybe in grade school. I always wonder how life turned out for them. I kind of want to know. I don't want to get into their life. I just want to know how to turn out. You know? And I think it kind of closes the chapter because to me, each person in your mind is like a book, or like a chapter in a book, and or places you've been. I always like to go back to some place I've been as a youngster, to see it, and to make sure that it's still there, make sure my memories are still there, and to close a chapter. And sometimes that closing that chapter is, well, it's still there, and that's enough. So anyway, I hope this this helps you as a reader, and I hope it helps you as a writer to know where all this comes from. Again, I'm going to put the link to the story Finding Andy Defresne. I'll put it down in the description section of this video, and you can link to it and read it for yourself. And I hope you'll enjoy it. So thanks a lot for stopping by, listening to me for a while. It was great talking to you. So remember this, do good stuff, read good stuff, write good stuff, and see good stuff in others. Okay, bye now.